About half an hour ago I hit a fishing vessel, a huge fish trawler. I was sleeping and I woke up and I was here in the cockpit looking up a huge wall with a fish trawler, and my starboard side sails were in his side. My Genoa was stuck on his cranes and sinks on the side, and I hear sail ripping, and I was bouncing a few times with the outrigger into the fishing vessel, and then luckily I could slip past and go, but that was a real shock moment.
Well, the 9th Vendée Globe has seen its first finisher, Charlie Dallin in a Pivia, cross the line, and the winner is Yannick Bestaven Matercock 4, which is the first Verdier, VPLP designed foiler, the Morgan Legraviere's former Safran, from 2015. But the big news was Boris Herman, whilst having a nap, collided with a fishing boat, less than 100 miles from the finish. The Prada Cup first rounds have INEOS Team UK going straight to the finals. Congratulations to Olivier Mager and his crew on French Class 40 Palanad 3, as the overall winner of the 2021 RORC Transatlantic race. Sir Ben Ainslie and Giles Scott talk about teamwork and loyalty, par of the winning ethics. This week, we had the sad news that Mr. America's Cup, Bob Fisher, passed away. We talked to him prior to the 2017 Bermuda event. He was his bright, controversial self. We will miss you, mate. And to end this week's show, Vittorio and Pietro from Quantum Sales Genoa give us a rundown on the foils for the finals. Now over to Boris, who explains how he hit a fishing boat.
About half an hour ago I hit a fishing vessel, a huge fish trawler. I was sleeping and I woke up and I was here in the cockpit looking up a huge wall with a fish trawler, and my starboard side sails were in his side. My Genoa was stuck on his cranes and sinks on the side, and I hear sail ripping, and I was bouncing a few times with the outrigger into the fishing vessel, and then luckily I could slip past and go, but that was a real shock moment. And then I investigated all the first most important things, so there was no water coming in. The foil is damaged, but not the foil case. The bowsprit is broken off. The bow pulpit is ripped, but still still hanging on. And so I had also the flapping broken sail in the air. So first I dressed up. I took a deep breath, dressed up, put my harness on, and clipped on. Luckily I was fully switched on and calm. Then I went on the foredeck and made a plan how to get the sail back on board. First I thought cutting everything, but then I thought maybe I can use the halyard and other things later on. I dropped the windward rudder to have the maximum safety and steering. Yeah, and so that was quite a job, getting the sail back in the bow. It's probably an hour ago by now, and climbing on the outrigger, inspect. So the shroud, the upper shroud on starboard is broken off, is ripped off the terminal, but the outrigger is still in place, and I can rig a safety, a jury shroud. The mast has two shrouds, so the lower shroud is still there. I'm on port tack, so the rig is looking good, safe for now, as far as I can judge. Yeah, so now I'm corresponding with the short team to come up with the best plan. I will probably reef my mainsail, which is still up full main, just to be safer. And I have the half-broken, the bent foil in the water breaking quite a bit. So I'm really gutted, and I'm sorry for everyone who supports us. That this happened. It's certainly the worst nightmare that happened to me so far. And on the positive side, we're still in the race. We still have a mast. We have 85 miles to the finish, so I think we can make it. We will lose a lot of places, but that's almost secondary now. And what really intrigues me is, why did it happen? I had all my alarms on, and I had many ships this afternoon where the radar alarm would perfectly alert me, the AIS alarm would perfectly alert me. Oscar was on as well. I had everything on, and I have on purpose checked on every ship if the alarm works well, and so observing on the radar how the echo is, and that was all working perfectly with all the past ships I crossed. And when I came up here and after the incident, there was no alarm at all. So normally I have to acknowledge an alarm when the radar alarm comes up, but how can the radar not pick up that ship? I have no idea. Sometimes the fishing people don't switch on their AIS. Yeah, okay, take another deep breath and try to solve this problem with the shroud and look forward to the finish. It's quite heartbreaking, but we will make it.
Focused on trying to win over the weekend and skip the semis and make it straight through to the Prada Cup final.
From where we were 3-4 weeks ago, I'm just again so proud of the team for getting us where we are now, but we've still got a long way to go.
Race committee, we would like to request a delay, please.
Yeah, we're having a lot of issues with our Cunningham ram, which really is what controls the power of the main source. Pretty critical control.
We are finally underway in round robin 3, race number 2. Luna Rossa, INEOS Team UK.
We were behind quite a few times, but we kept ourselves in the race.
Speed coming.
This is tight though. There was nothing in this.
That last lap, Ben and Giles really kind of hooked it up into the right phase, and you know that last bottom right running kind of got us straight onto the right tack, and the gains were always coming back to us from that point.
gives INEOS the lead again.
If they win this one, go directly to the Prada Cup final. Absolutely nothing in it. Split gates and away we go.
We'll get rolled, so we've got to stay this way.
It was a seriously close finish, that last cross.
This is going to be tight. They're in trouble on Prada.
It was absolutely touch and go, but absolutely amazing that we did it.
But we kept ourselves in the race and managed to get it right just on the line when it counts.
And that is an enormous win. And they go through to the Prada Cup final.
It's one step in the journey to trying to win the America's Cup. But we've still got a long way to go and a lot of improvements that we need to make if we're going to be fast enough to win this thing.
Talking to Bob Fisher, Mr. America's Cup. Now, Bob, it's nearly 2017. The new boats are about to be done, the big ones.
Well, yes, they can put them in the water on the 29th of December, I'm told, so let them get them in. You know, they'll be in shortly.
So what's the story? What's your goss? What's happening? What's your take on what's going on?
Well, it's not the America's Cup as we once knew it. It's far from that, you know. I regard these as pond skaters, not yachts.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, that's the way sailing's going, or competitive sailing is going, so let's get at the forefront of it with the America's Cup. It is a world of, shall we say, technicians.
Yeah.
It's not a world of sailors so much as it was, although sailors do form a part of this. It's very much a technical world. You've got to just look and see the companies behind each of the teams. You know, they're big companies, people like Airbus, you find them in it. It's obviously there for some reason. And the reason, as the Airbus man told me the other day, was that we have the technology that you need.
Indeed, indeed. Now, your British challenge with Sir Ben Ainslie, it seems to be going along extremely well. It's leading at the moment, isn't it?
Well, yes, I'm quite sure that Ben will do what he set out to do, and that's bring it home.
Oh, you're confident, are you?
Oh, I'm very confident that he will do it. It's going to finish my books nice, so I can seal it off with the end of the chapter, the last chapter as the cup's back home, and then somebody else can take up the job. I don't want it anymore.
Well, you've written a definitive book, yeah.
Well, yeah, but I haven't finished it yet.
No, of course not.
You know, I shall finish it with this cup, I hope.
Well, indeed, yeah. Well, do you think there's any chance if somebody else, like maybe if the Kiwis won, that they could change it back yet again?
Well, everybody asks the question of all of the teams now, what will they do when they win it? And all of them look you straight in the eye and say, I'm sure there will be changes. I'm sure there'll be changes too, but you know, that's it's got to happen. Whether it will happen back into... Well, what's interesting is that just before the America's Cup in Bermuda, we're going to see the J-Class racing in those waters out there. Now, maybe somebody will get the idea that it's just as cheap or inexpensive to build a new one of those or a new two of those as it is to go ahead with more of this pond skating on the water, and let's have it back in boats of reasonable proportions. And it was given up in the J boats because they were too expensive. Well, goodness gracious, they're less expensive now than one of these boats that they're putting in the water, so let's get back into reality.
What did you think of the format of the Louis Vuitton, you know, with the Defender mixed up with the Challengers and gaining points towards the end result?
That is outrageous. I mean,
I'm glad somebody agrees with me.
I find it absolutely outrageous that they should be in there. And I said it last time round, but there was no reason that they should be allowed anywhere near the current people. I mean, why? You know, it's always been a case of the defenders get themselves ready and the challengers prepare themselves to take on the defenders as best they can. And you know, back in the days of Newport, Rhode Island, where you had about 4 defenders racing against each other almost every day, that provided one set of racing, and the challengers had their eliminations as well. So yeah, that's the way it should be. Not the defender getting points early.
Well, he's carrying 1 point into the final series, for heaven's sake.
Well, at least the Brits have got 2 points, which is better than him. You know. So, yeah, I really do think this is, you know, juggled for the defenders. But then, you know, I don't think that Larry Ellison ever played a straight game anyway. So let's get it straight. Let's have it straight. Not let's have twisted America's Cup.
Well, at least it's not in the courts this time, so that's one consolation.
It's only just out of the courts, I can tell you. But, you know, why? I think the courts did a great job.
See the full videos at www.facebook.com/worldonwater or our website www.boatson.tv.
Foils for the finals.
Team New Zealand came up last week with the probably last set of foils, or maybe it's another set just modified. It's for sure very similar to the previous one, but you can spot some differences, and probably the way they are going is for even smaller foils. So we saw 2 different ways of thinking, one from INEOS and Luna Rossa, which have huge foils, bigger foils, more surface, and one from Team New Zealand and America Magic, who have smaller foils. Now Emirates Team New Zealand went right to the top of the smallest foils you can have, no?
See, definitely, there are rumors that are talking about a defender that is sailing at 50 knots plus approximately all the time, which is part of the rumor that you want to spread around, obviously. But then this choice is very, very, very extreme. They also moved this very small surface of the foils also quite far back, you know. So this means they have most probably more rake in the sails, and they try to have a boat that is quite unstable, but still able to achieve the change of pitch they like each moment, no?
Exactly. So it's an extreme choice. For sure, they will not have the most stable boat, and for sure it's a risky move, because if it happens that the America's Cup will be held in light winds, which is statistically probably not the case, but you don't win the America's Cup with the statistics, you win the America's Cup while sailing on board. So if you have a couple of days with light winds, like in the lowest range, then you end up probably losing for races, because we saw already in the World Series that Team New Zealand was not that fast. At contrary, was quite slow, let's say, in lower range winds, no?
Yes, they tend to fall down from the foils, and they were not able to go up again easily. Not at all, but it's normal. I mean, there is no compromise. I mean, in this case, obviously, they can try to fix this issue with the sails in some way, but still they will be unfavored in light winds against a boat with the setup that Luna Rossa and INEOS now have. So it's a risky move. The problem for us that we are watching the series is that we risk to face regattas with opponents that have different speeds depending on the wind range. So we will have a much faster boat in strong wind, which becomes the much slower boat in light winds.
The match we saw between INEOS and Luna Rossa was a very spectacular one, and the show was due to the fact that the boats were very, very close in terms of speed. No, probably you can say one boat was a little faster upwind than the other downwind, but anyway, they were very, very close. If two boats will race with a different configuration of foils, so for example, INEOS with let's say B52 foils and New Zealand with glider foils, then you have two completely different way of doing the regatta, of going into the course. So less show for sure, and less amusement also for us watching. Probably easier race for one of the teams, and for the other a race which is almost lost even before starting.
Exactly. I mean, the choice between the T foils and the Y foils is already made by all the teams, more or less, so they cannot change it any longer, and this can lead to a slight advantage to one team compared to the other, most probably, for sure will be, but it is not a choice so radical as the one of the overall surface of the foils, which means the attitude of a boat to stay on the foils in light winds or not, or to be very, very fast in strong winds, obviously. I mean, these speeds that New Zealand is recording and is reporting to everybody, okay, we understand that they are very, very fast. Obviously, they are very, very fast. But in the end, you need to fly all around the race course. So you need also to stay up on the foils during the starting procedure. So if it's windy, then you can lift off quite easily. But if it's not windy, then if the opponent manages to make you fall down from the foils, then it can become difficult to lift off again.
Yes, and also if you have smaller foils, probably you have also a little different and narrower possible configuration of both upwind and downwind. So if your opponent is able to stay in front of you and push you in some attitudes which are not the ones that you can have, then you are obliged to do what your opponent wants. So maybe go in the wrong side, tuck away, and maneuver a lot more than the other, which can mean doing more errors and so losing the regatta. Anyway, we cannot know a priori which will be the show. In all this, American Magic now sits in a little bit in between the two foils, no? Because they have for sure smaller foils, but not as small as Team New Zealand now.
But we will see in a short while how it plays out with American Magic against Luna Rossa. They have been sailing already with the boat that they call the number 2.0. They look not that stable, actually, but they managed to stay out all the day long, which means that more or less everything is working. So it's quite important for them. Still, they need to solve some kind of problems. We saw their new rudder with wings, very, very interesting. So they managed to make also some development during this period, obviously planned development. We saw their boom shaped, which is a straight one, but shaped to copy the deck of the boat, which is quite nice to see. But in the end, they still need to solve their issues. They are fast, but they're not enough stable. The fact is, they could have some rest. The sailing team had some rest, even if they helped. But still, they have some rest from sailing, and this 9 days break, something like this, is something that can play out very, very well for them. So it's a kind of period of rest that, from a training point of view, you would probably want to have before an important match. So if they manage to keep the team together and to have fun in sailing, then they can become really, really dangerous for Luna Rossa team, because they never stopped. So they can also have reached a point where they are a little tired, of going out every day.
And they have nothing to lose. So they already had a very, very difficult situation. If they came up doing well, they will be the big winner. If they are not able to stabilize the boat, let's say, they can always tell that it was the sinking, let's say, mistakes. So
Yes.
they know they can do everything they want, and probably they have less pressure than the others.
Let's see how the final day of preparation works out for Patriot, and then we look forward for the first race between Luna Rossa and American Magic. Will be fun to see for sure.
We hope.
Ciao. Thank you. Bye.
Ciao, ciao.